A janitor. He's just going about his regular workday trying to get back home, and he can't figure out for the life of him why this boss of his goes out of her way to make OP's life a living heck. And then we find out possibly one of the biggest secrets that we've ever read on the channel. Today's story is absolutely insane. I'm 58, and I don't think I can ever get over my wife's disappearance without a trace. I've not heard from her for 27 years, and I think about how she and the child are doing. Now I have to survive as a janitor at a company with an arrogant boss, sweet parents, and a friend, and I don't know if I can trust. I'm Alvin, and I have the worst life possible because nothing's been going well in my life for the longest time. I once had a life full of love and joy, and it changed within the blink of an eye. I married a very beautiful woman for about 3 years. We had big dreams, and we had planned a future together. In the 3rd year of our marriage, she got pregnant, and we were both just filled with complete joy. We thought that our lives as parents were finally about to start, but to my surprise, my wife left me when she was 7 months pregnant, and I woke up and she was not on the bed. I thought she was somewhere in the house, and so I went around looking and calling for her, but nothing. I began to feel worried, and I later found out a letter by the bedside table that stated that she had left and was not coming back. She told me not to worry about her, as she would be okay, and that was the day that everything changed for me. My performance at work was affected, I lost my job, and this was just the beginning of my torture. Months went by as I tried to find a job but had no success. I slowly ran out of money, so I had to mortgage the house and rent a room instead. I also sold a lot of furniture from the house to sustain myself. My luck was running out, and so was my money. I had no choice but to be a street vendor and to try and survive. As I was selling, I was also looking for a job, and I got a job as a janitor, but it did not last long, so I moved from job to job as nobody was satisfied with my work, and a lot was going through my head, and I could not work in peace. My family asked me to go back home, but I wanted to stay in town as I hoped that my wife would show up someday. I prayed every night for her to come back, but I was left all alone. Today marks exactly 27 years since she left, and it just triggered so many emotions in me. I'm starting to get used to it as I've been working here for almost a year without any breakdown. Although my boss does not appreciate me, I know that I'm doing my best and to get myself back, even though I would not be able to change completely. My life is at a complete standstill, and I don't want to go on like this, as I'm only killing myself slowly. My boss resembles my wife a lot, and I cannot help staring at her as I would stare at my wife. Sometimes I wonder who her parents are, even though she's not the nicest person. I feel at home around her. That's probably the reason why my work here is better and I'm improving emotionally. I've never actually had a conversation with her. Even though I collect my monthly payment from her physically, as I am the only one who gets paid by check, I cannot afford to get my money through the bank because it's just peanuts, and with the bank charges, I will not be able to pay rent or buy food. I don't really have so many monthly expenses, but I don't have the money to pay all my expenses at once. Everyone's excited about the boss's birthday, which is about a month away. I do not get why they're so happy to eat a cake and blow up balloons like little children. I will still need to get her a present as she's my boss, but what will I get her? Update number 1. It's been a month and a half since my last update, and this company's not exactly what I would call home. 2 weeks ago was my boss's birthday, and I could not understand why my coworkers were excited about her birthday. But it turned out that on her birthday, everyone only comes to work to celebrate her birthday and not work. A few days before the birthday, everybody was so busy preparing for it, I felt like I did not belong as I was not assigned a task like everyone else. I didn't really mind it though, I just sat outside the office with a cup of coffee, as everybody walked around and made phone calls. She then approached me and asked why I was not working. I looked at her and said that I was getting back to work as soon as I finished my cup of coffee. She demanded that I get back to work immediately, and I just nodded as I stood. On her birthday, everyone brought her a present, and she was so happy. Her parents also showed up to surprise her for her birthday. It was beautiful. I did not have enough money to buy her a present, so I decided to look into my wife's jewelry box and found an old pendant. I wrapped it up and put it in my pocket, just to give it to her. After everyone handed their presents, I walked after them and pulled out what I had for her. I wished her a happy birthday as I handed it to her, and her face changed immediately, and she asked what I thought I was doing. I explained to her that I was only giving her a gift like everyone else did, and she laughed her lungs out as she unwrapped it. She saw the pendant, and she was quiet for a moment before asking me where I got it from. Well, I explained, and she accused me of stealing it. I was so disappointed, and I wish I had not given it to her. She demanded that I leave the office party and get back to work, as I was not invited to it. I went back to the storage room to get the cleaning detergents and just continue working. As I cleaned, everyone continuously threw food on the floor. I politely asked a coworker of mine to stop, and she made a big deal out of it, which brought Sophia's attention. She walked towards us and asked what the problem was. My coworker claimed that I was bullying her by forcing her to do my job for me. Sophia looked at me with disgust and said, "Listen here, you good-for-nothing janitor. Cleaning is your job, and if he wants to litter, we can do that. And you cannot stop it. You only have one job, and that's to clean. Talk about cleaning. Clean this up," as she said to me as she dropped a bottle of champagne to the floor and it broke into little pieces. I quietly cleaned it up after I left the office, and I went to vent alone in the storage room. I can't believe that even her parents let her treat someone like that. That clearly showed how much of a spoiled brat she is. Every time I see her, I think of how I would have taught my son or daughter to be the most humble person. I need this money so much that I have to put up with her ill treatment. A few minutes after I left the party, Theodore brought me a piece of cake and a cool can of drink. He told me that, well, not to mind the boss. I wonder how I'm not supposed to mind her when she's literally my boss. I don't really have a choice in this case but to put up with her. He assured me that everything would be okay as time went on, and I hope to believe him. But I know for sure that she can never change the way she treats people around her. She believes that people from the lower class are animals, and nobody can change that kind of mentality as it was installed by her parents and the environment she grew up in. Her parents are equally responsible for the corrupt daughter they have. Even though I want to stand up against her, who am I to do so? I'm just a janitor, anyways, and I could never win against her, but I don't really have anything to lose. Update number 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and after my boss's ill treatment continued, I decided to report her to HR. I could no longer work around her as she made me uncomfortable. We went to a hearing a few days after my report, and I thought I was finally going to get justice and just get her to stop treating me like a dog. In the hearing, she denied ever treating me differently, and because she had been working at the company way longer than I had, there's been no case of the same sort ever recorded against her. They found it hard to believe me. Investigators were carried out, and different people from the company were questioned, and they all stood by her side. I was alone, and nobody would stand with me. I was not only sad, I was ashamed, as I looked like a big fat liar in front of HR. I did not know what to do. For a second, I even thought that maybe if I resigned, it would be peace. Then I remembered how much I needed the money, and I don't know when else I'll get a job if I decide to resign. I went back to work as per the command from HR office. A week later, Sophia called me and told me never to challenge her again. I felt threatened, and I was indeed threatened to stay quiet about the unhealthy work environment I live in. And because I decided to speak up, she decided to lower my pay rate. I complained and told her that she could not do that. She looked at my distressed face and said, "I can do anything because I'm the boss. What can you do? Will you run to HR office again? Someone needs to teach you how things will work around here. Whether I decrease or increase your pay, it'll be the same. Your monthly payment is not even enough for my manicure or to do my hair. Why do you even bother coming to work?" I wish she were my daughter so I could teach her manners the hard way because she's poisonous. I don't get why she only acts this way with me and nobody else. Everybody claims that she's the best boss, but on my side, she's the worst boss to ever exist. My salary's already barely enough to survive, and she reduced it because I decided to speak up. What will I do to survive? My wife was my lucky charm, and now everything and everyone is against me. What have I done to the universe to deserve this kind of treatment? I have to get back to work. I'll update you as soon as I, know how I'm coping with my work environment. Update number 3. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I've been seriously ill, or we can call it stressed. I've been admitted to the hospital for the past 2 weeks, and at the moment I owe the hospital so much money that I don't even know where I'll get the money. So when I returned to work 3 days ago, I went to see my boss to discuss the matter. I asked to have my salary in advance as I wanted to make a hospital deposit. She looked at me and said, "Maybe. No one told you this, but you're a paid person on commission, and you have not worked for 2.5 weeks and you expect me to pay you? You'll only be getting a quarter of your incentive." I was distressed, and the thought of going into debt to pay my rent and the hospital bill was killing me. I knelt down before her feet and begged her to pay me in full. A satisfied look came to her face, and she decided that she would only pay half of my monthly salary. Even though it was not enough, it was way better than getting a quarter. Her mother walked in on us and found me on the floor. She was so disappointed in her daughter and gave her a lecture about life. She then wrote me a check for my full salary, and I left the office to give them privacy. An hour later, her mother came to look for me. "I'm so sorry about my daughter's behavior. I had no idea that she would be doing this to you. I regret not standing up for you on her birthday. What were you, begging her for?" Well, she said this to me with a soothing voice, and I then explained what I was going through. She felt sorry for me immediately. She then decided to pay the whole hospital bill, and I could not thank her enough. I'm deeply indebted to her, and I honestly did not know how I was going to pay for everything. We've been in touch since then, and she's indeed a sweet person, and I cannot tell where her daughter got her humor from. Ever since Sophia got a lecture from her mom, she's been quite nice to me, even though one can clearly tell that she's just doing it to, convince everyone else that she's a sweet being. She called me to her office earlier today and told me not to get comfortable with her because I'm still the lowest paid person. She said that she's only treating me fairly because her mother has threatened to report her to the HR office. She called me names because she believes that I turned her mother against her. I would never want to break up a family, as I know how it feels when your other half leaves you without a clue. She also warned me never to go anywhere near her mother or any of her family members. Theodore sneaks into the storage room to bring me tea, as I'm not even allowed to stop working for a cup of coffee. He's the only person at work who seems to like me, and I'm finding it hard to trust him. Well, not that I have a problem with people disliking me, but the treatment is just super unnecessary. And because of that, my health is deteriorating. I once promised myself that I would not care about what people think about me, but this is just different, and it hits completely different too. I spend most of my time at work, and I'm supposed to feel safe and not harassed. Update number 4. It's been a month since my last update, and time flies, right? So what happened yesterday was that my boss fainted. Well, how did it happen? It seemed that she's not been eating healthy for a few days as she's been busy with work. I arrived early at work yesterday because I wanted to finish work early. She arrived an hour later after everyone else and just walked up to me. As I was mopping, she walked by without an apology and a few steps away from me, and her cup of coffee fell to the ground. I was annoyed as I thought she was doing it on purpose, and I looked at her with an angry face. I saw her arms swaying as she was trying to reach for a table, just to balance herself. I hurried to her rescue to avoid her hitting her head, and I looked around to try to ask for help from my coworkers, but they all looked at each other and started whispering. I called out for someone to call an ambulance, but nobody wanted to help me. They all looked relieved, as if they wanted her to die. I know she's arrogant, and she's not been the best boss, especially to me, but that does not mean that I should sit back and watch her fight for her life. I carried her outside and took a taxi to the hospital. Theodore was right behind me and offered to pay for the ride we took to the hospital. As I carried her into the hospital, the nurses seemed to not care about her at all, until a doctor recognized her and commanded them to take her in. Theodore had to go back to the office an hour later. I've been worried as the doctor only came out to tell me that she suffered an anemia attack as she has not consumed anything solid, plus she's not taken her iron supplements in a long time. I have not gone home since yesterday, and these nurses refused to tell me how she's doing. All they told me was that she's still conscious. I called her mother this morning to tell her about her daughter's state. She's been sitting next to me with a devastated face. She's also looked anxious when the doctor came out to tell us that Sophia would need a blood transfusion in order to save her life. Her mother has already gone through some testing to see if it's possible for her to give her daughter blood, and they're not compatible. The doctors said that if we do not find someone else with O-positive blood who can save her, then we might lose her for good. I decided to undergo testing because my blood type is also O-positive to see if I can save her. We've yet to receive the test results to see if I'm healthy enough to give blood. I never knew that one could have subconscious love for someone that he was not even aware of. I truly care for this young lady, even though she's a pain. Maybe she's arrogant because that's her coping mechanism. You never actually know someone until you hear their side of the story, and I believe that she has a reason why she is the way that she is. Well, I hope I'm being able to save her life. At least, I can do that after her mother paid my hospital bill, and how nice she's been to me as well. The results may take a few hours or even a day or two. I'm trying to be patient with the nurses here. They do not seem to be doing their jobs the way they're supposed to. I'm overwhelmed by a mix of emotions. Now I don't know how I'm really feeling. Anyways, I have to get some coffee to stay awake. I'll update you all soon. Update number 5. It's been a year since my last update, and I have not gotten time to update you sooner as I've been busy with work. You cannot believe what I'm about to tell you. Well, it turns out that Sophia is my daughter, and her mother knew but never said a word to me. After the results came back, the doctor asked Lucy where the lady's father was, and she said that he's out of town with work. He asked her if he was the biological father of her daughter, and she started having shortness of breath and broke into a sweat, and she pointed at me. Well, I was confused as to why she was pointing at me. Alvin, I can explain. She said to me with tears running down her cheeks. Sophia's mother was my friend. She was the most beautiful person I knew. She began to explain before I cut her off and asked the doctor to direct me to where I needed to donate blood. We left her at the transfusion until it was done. Hours later, Lucy came to explain to me why she kept quiet about my daughter. Your wife lost a battle against anemia, and I wish I had done more to save her, but I could not. She died 4 months after Sophia was born. She made me promise not to bring Sophia back to you until she was 35. I don't know why she made me promise. She said, well, she had left me with a picture of yours, and I was shocked to see you as a janitor at the place where your daughter works. I tried to tell you about it, but I did not have the courage to, and I'm truly sorry for this. As she explained, I kept thinking of how 27 years of having a life with my daughter were taken away. I knew that she just decided to keep her away from me because she had a choice. I burned with fury, and she kept crying as she apologized. Half an hour of silence covered the room, and after that, the doctor came to break the silence by announcing that Sophia was finally awake. We both hurried to her room to see how she was doing. She was not happy to see my face, and as she wanted to chase me out, her mother told her who I really was. She didn't know what the hell was happening. She thought it was just a dirty prank her mother was pulling on her. Sophia was discharged a day later, and she asked to go out of town to process everything she learned. I made peace with Lucy, and we waited for Sophia to come back. Sophia then called me 2 weeks later and asked if I wanted to talk over coffee. I found her sitting alone at the diner, and she was filled with sadness and shame. She didn't know where to start apologizing for the way she treated me. She also explained why she thought I'd stolen the pendant I gave her on her birthday. You see, she has a similar pendant that her mother gave her when she was a child. So she thought that I've stolen the other half. How? I have no idea either. She apologized and promised to make it up to me. She was also wondering why I saved her life, even after all the pain she caused me. She thought that after the hell she put me through, I would watch her die without even minding her. I explained to her that my heart never wanted to let her go. Even though she was trying to be the worst person, I just believed that there was some goodness deep down in her heart. I was curious to know why she acts all tough, and she responded that her parents look at her like she's fragile little egg because she has anemia. And so she had to find someone who looks worse than her to take stress off of them. She said that her parents made it seem like she could die any moment, and she did not understand why until her mother explained that her friend's death planted trauma deeply in her, and she was scared that Sophia could die any time just like her mom. She offered to make me the assistant manager at work. I agreed. I signed the contract and we finalized everything, and since then my life has changed. I feel genuinely happy because I know I'm no longer alone. Who would have ever guessed that a useless janitor like me could be an assistant manager in less than a year? I'm glad I have my very own family tale to tell my grandchildren. I don't even remember when I was last this happy. I mean, this is just one of those stories that you just don't come across very often. It was so absurd. I mean, the fact that OP was in the same work establishment as his daughter, and the fact that he was able to save her life later in the story, being the same blood type and donating to save her life, and he did it. I want to know your thoughts about this, guys. This story was so different than the normal stories that we cover, and yes, it had a lot of moving parts to it, but I want to know, if you were in OP's unique position, would you have done the same by donating? I want to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito if you guys are new to the channel, and I narrate stories every single day. So if you want daily videos, the best way to get it is super simple. All you gotta do is subscribe. Guys, I want you to have an amazing day. I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.